The black of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the distant stars, a ship moved in silence. The vessel was small compared to the massive freight carriers that traveled the safe routes, but it was built for a different purpose. This was the Shadow of Earth, a stealth frigate from humanity's deep space fleet. Captain Day sat in his command chair, eyes fixed on the display screens that surrounded him. He was a man in his mid-40s with sharp eyes and gray streaks in his dark hair. 20 years in space had taught him one important lesson: never trust empty space. Something was always watching. "Captain, the gravitational readings are complete," said Hannah from her station. She was the tactical officer, young and brilliant, with reflexes faster than anyone Day had ever served with. "The anomalies match our predictions. Command will be pleased." Day nodded but said nothing. His fingers drummed slowly on the armrest. Something felt wrong. He had learned to trust that feeling a long time ago. In the engine room deep inside the ship, Tay wiped sweat from his forehead. The chief engineer loved his ship like it was alive. Every sound, every vibration told him a story. Right now the engines hummed perfectly. Everything was running exactly as it should. But when the captain's voice came through his comm unit asking for a status report for the third time that hour, Tay knew something was bothering Day. "Engines are perfect, Captain," Tay reported. "We can go to maximum stealth mode whenever you need." Far behind the human ship, 3 alien vessels moved through space. They were sleek and dangerous, built by the Kalthari species for one purpose: hunting. The Kalthari had ruled this sector of space for 300 years. They were reptilian creatures, each with 4 powerful arms and scales that could change color. They considered themselves the apex predators of the galaxy. Commander Vresh stood in the command center of the lead hunting vessel. His scales were deep red, a sign of his high rank. His forearms moved across control panels as he studied the display showing the strange energy signature ahead. "A new species," Vresh said, his voice filled with satisfaction. "Unknown to our databases. Primitive engine design. They have no idea we are here." The other Kalthari on the bridge hissed with excitement. A new species meant new prey. It meant honor and glory for the hunting pack. Vresh had captured 17 different species in his career. This would be his 18th. "Close the distance slowly," Vresh ordered. "Traditional formation. Let them run for a while. It makes the capture more satisfying." The 3 Kalthari ships adjusted their course, following the human vessel like wolves tracking a deer through the forest. Back on the Shadow of Earth, young Ari floated in the small cockpit of her scout craft. She was the ship's reconnaissance pilot, barely 25 years old but already one of the best. Her job was to watch and report anything unusual. For the past 2 hours she had been running long-range sensor sweeps. "Captain," Ari's voice came through the comm system. "I'm picking up something strange. Space is too clean behind us, like something is blocking the normal background radiation." Day leaned forward in his chair. "Show me." The main display changed. Where there should have been the natural chaos of space, there was a pattern. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there. 3 shadows where there should be light. Hannah saw it immediately. "Ships, at least 3. They're using our own sensor shadow to hide." "Distance?" Dai asked, his voice calm. 4 hours behind us at current speed," Hannah replied. "They're maintaining exact formation. Professional hunters." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. In deep space, there were no accidents. If someone was following you, they were predators. Day stood up slowly. He walked to the main window and stared out at the stars. His crew watched him, waiting. They had served under him long enough to know that he was thinking, calculating, planning. Day said quietly, "Can you modify our engine output? Make it look like we're running hotter than we are?" "Yes, Captain," Tay responded immediately. "I can create false thermal readings. Make us look like we're pushing the engines hard. Do it. Hannah, I want silent running protocols. No active sensors. Nothing that shows we know they're there." Hannah's fingers flew across her controls. "Acknowledged." Going dark, Ari returned to the ship. "We might need that scout craft for something else soon." "On my way, Captain," Ari said. One of the junior officers, a man named Bora, spoke up nervously. "Captain, shouldn't we contact Fleet Command? Request backup?" Day turned to look at him. "We're 3 weeks from the nearest human ship, son. By the time help arrives, whatever is going to happen will be over. We handle this ourselves." The Shadow of Earth continued on its course, but now everything was different. The crew moved with purpose, preparing systems, checking weapons, running through emergency procedures. Day had ordered weapon systems to standby mode, but quietly, so there would be no energy signature to give away their awareness. Commander Vresh watched his displays with satisfaction. The human ship was increasing speed slightly, pushing its engines harder. They sense danger but cannot see us, he said. Instinct without intelligence. They are running blind. His second officer approached. Commander, should we close the net now? Not yet, Vresh replied. I want to see where they run, what tactics they use. It tells us about the species. He bared his teeth in what the Kalthari considered a smile. Every hunt teaches us something about our prey. Hours passed. The distance between the ships slowly decreased. The Kalthari were patient, but they were also eager. Soon they would spring their trap. On the shadow of Earth, Day gathered his senior officers in the small briefing room. Hana, Tay, and Ari stood around the table where a holographic map displayed their current position. In 6 hours, we reached the broken rocks, Day said, pointing to an asteroid field marked on the map. It's a navigation hazard. Most ships avoid it. You want to go through it? Tay asked. I've been through worse, Day said. But our friends back there probably haven't. Hana, what do we know about hunter species in this sector? The Kalthari, Hana said immediately. They're the dominant predator race. They hunt for sport and territorial expansion. 3 ships is a standard hunting pack. Weaknesses? He asked. Overconfidence, Hana replied. They've never lost a hunt in recorded history. They don't expect prey to fight back. Day smiled for the first time in hours. It was not a pleasant smile. Then we're going to teach them something new. The officers looked at each other. They understood now. The captain wasn't running. He was preparing an ambush. Get some rest, Day ordered. In 6 hours, we enter the asteroid field. That's when things get interesting. As they left the briefing room, Ari paused at the door. Captain, are you sure about this? Day looked at her. No, but running won't save us. Fighting might. We're human, Ari. We've been the underdog since our species learned to walk. It's our specialty. Alone in the command center, Day returned to his chair. He pulled up personnel files reading about his crew. 38 souls depending on him to make the right choices. 38 people who trusted him to bring them home. Behind them, 3 alien ships continued their pursuit, unaware that everything was about to change. The asteroid field called the Broken Rocks filled the view screen like a wall of spinning stone. Rocks the size of cities tumbled slowly through space, their surfaces scarred by countless collisions. Smaller debris created clouds of dust and ice that made sensors almost useless. Captain Day watched the field carefully. Take us in, Hana. Standard navigation speed. The shadow of Earth moved forward into the maze of asteroids. The ship's hull groaned slightly as it passed between 2 massive rocks. On the bridge, warning lights flickered as proximity alarms detected obstacles on all sides. Behind them, the 3 Kalthari ships reached the edge of the field. Commander Vresh studied the asteroids with his multiple eyes. This was a complication, but not a serious one. They are seeking shelter like prey animals, Vresh said. Deploy the gravity wells. Cut off their escape routes. We end this hunt now. The Kalthari ships activated their special weapons. Massive generators created artificial gravity fields at 3 points around the asteroid field. Any ship trying to escape would be pulled off course, trapped like an insect in a web. Vresh had used this tactic hundreds of times. It never failed. A communication beam lanced through space, broadcasting in multiple languages. Vresh's voice echoed with authority. Unknown vessel, you are surrounded. Your engines cannot escape our gravity wells. Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with force. You have been claimed by the Kalthari Dominion. On the shadow of Earth, the crew heard the message. Several of the younger officers looked nervous. They had heard stories about the Kalthari, about species that had vanished after encountering them. Should we respond, Captain? Asked Bora, the communications officer. Day's answer was simple. No, sir. They want us to panic, to make mistakes. Instead, we give them silence. Day touched a button on his chair. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Tay, I need everything the engines can give me. Hana, weapons hot. Ari, get to your scout craft. The ship transformed. Crew members ran to their positions. Hatches sealed. Weapon systems charged. In engineering, Tay's hands flew across controls as he pushed the reactor to combat levels. Captain, Hana said quietly. They have gravity wells deployed. We can't run. Who said anything about running? Day replied. He studied his tactical display, seeing the 3 enemy ships positioned outside the asteroid field. Hana, plot a course directly toward the lead ship. Maximum military thrust. Hana's eyes went wide. Sir, that's an attack vector. Yes, they expect us to hide or flee. We're going to do neither. Day's voice carried through the ship. All hands brace for high-G maneuvers. The shadow of Earth's engines flared to full power. The ship shot forward through the asteroids like a bullet, accelerating to speeds that made the crew press back into their seats. Warning alarms screamed as the ship passed within meters of spinning rocks. On the Kalthari command ship, Vresh watched in shock as the human vessel came straight at him. Impossible. Prey does not charge. Commander, they're targeting our sensor arrays. His weapons officer shouted, Raise shields. Return fire. But the human ship was already too close. At point-blank range, the shadow of Earth's railguns opened up. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds hammered into the Kalthari ship's sensor clusters. The alien shields held, but the delicate detection equipment behind them shattered. We're blind, the Kalthari sensor officer reported. All forward sensors destroyed. Then the human ship did something even more unexpected. Instead of continuing the attack, it twisted in space, using the mass of the Kalthari vessel itself as a gravitational anchor. The shadow of Earth slingshot around the enemy ship and dove back into the asteroid field, vanishing into the clouds of debris. Vresh stood frozen in shock. In 300 years, no prey had ever attacked a Kalthari hunter ship. His scales flushed dark with embarrassment and anger. They knew, Vresh said slowly. They knew we were following them all along. This was a trap. His second officer approached nervously. Commander, perhaps we should request additional ships. No. Vresh's roar silenced the bridge. 3 ships to hunt 1 small vessel? We would be laughed out of the Dominion. They are clever, but they are still prey. We adapt, we pursue, we capture them. He pointed at the asteroid field. All ships enter the field. Full search pattern. Find them. Deep in the asteroid field, the shadow of Earth hung motionless in the shadow of a massive rock. All non-essential systems were powered down. The ship was nearly invisible, hiding in plain sight. Tay worked frantically in the engineering bay. Around him, several crew members modified mining drones, small robots normally used for collecting samples. But now they were being fitted with explosive charges. These should work, Tay said, examining his modifications. When the Kalthari ships pass by, the drones will activate and attach to nearby asteroids. The explosions will create a cascade effect. Like dominoes, said Ari, who was helping with the work. One rock hits another, which hits another? Exactly, Tay confirmed. In an asteroid field, you don't need to hit your target. You just need to start a chain reaction. On the bridge, Hana tracked the 3 Kalthari ships as they entered the field. They were moving in formation, using powerful beam weapons to clear paths through the smaller asteroids. Their tactic was brutish but effective. Captain, they've split their search pattern, Hana reported. The damaged ship is moving cautiously, but the other 2 are pushing deeper into the field. Good, Day said. They're angry now. Anger makes people stupid. He touched his comm unit. Tay, are those drones ready? Loading them into the launch tubes now, Captain. Ari, I need you to plant those drones along their projected path. Can you do it without being seen? In her small scout craft, Ari checked her stealth systems. My ship is smaller than most of these asteroids, Captain. They won't even know I'm there. Be careful, Day said. Go. Ari's scout craft detached silently from the shadow of Earth and slipped away into the maze of rocks. She moved with practiced skill, using minimal thrust, letting momentum and gravity carry her. The mining drones were secured in external racks on her craft. Through her canopy, Ari could see the Kalthari ships in the distance. Their lights swept through the darkness like searchlights. She planted the first drone on a large asteroid, using the robot's magnetic clamps to secure it. Then she moved to the next position. One of the Kalthari ships was getting closer. Ari held her breath, drifting behind a spinning rock. The alien vessel passed within 100 meters, so close she could see details on its hull. But they didn't see her. She planted 3 more drones, then retreated back toward the shadow of Earth. Drones are in position, Captain, Ari reported. Remote detonators armed. Well done. Return to the ship. Vresh's forward scout ship pushed deeper into the asteroid field. Its captain was eager to redeem the honor of the hunting pack. Sensors showed a thermal signature ahead, consistent with the human ship's engines. Commander, we have them. The scout captain reported to Vresh. Closing to attack range. Destroy their engines only, Vresh commanded. I want them captured alive. The Kalthari scout ship accelerated, beam weapons charging. They never suspected the small objects attached to the asteroids around them were anything but natural debris. On the shadow of Earth, Day watched the enemy ship enter the kill zone. Hana, detonate the drones. Hana pressed a single button. The asteroid field erupted. The mining drones exploded simultaneously, each one fracturing the rock it was attached to. Massive chunks of stone broke apart and collided with neighboring asteroids. Within seconds, hundreds of rocks were moving in unpredictable directions. The Kalthari scout ship found itself in the middle of a storm. Its shields flared bright as impacts came from all sides. The captain tried to retreat, but a house-sized boulder slammed into their starboard side. The shield generator overloaded with a flash of purple light. More rocks followed. Without shields, the hull began to buckle. Emergency alarms filled the alien bridge. Engines offline. Someone shouted. Life support failing in sections 4 through 7. The Kalthari scout ship tumbled out of control, crippled but not destroyed. Its crew worked desperately to stabilize their vessel. Commander Vresh watched this disaster unfold from his command ship. His confidence was cracking. Pull back. All ships pull back to the edge of the field, now. The 2 remaining Kalthari ships retreated from the asteroids. Vresh stared at the tactical display where one of his ships now drifted helplessly. He had begun this hunt with 3 vessels. Now he had 2. These humans, Vresh said slowly, are not prey. They are something else. His second officer spoke carefully. Commander, regulations allow us to withdraw if the hunt becomes too costly. Withdraw? Vresh's scales flushed dark red. Tell the entire Dominion that we fled from one small ship? Never. We continue the hunt. But now we treat these humans as equals. He paused. No, as worthy adversaries. In the asteroid field, the shadow of Earth remained hidden. The crew celebrated quietly, but Day did not smile. This isn't over, he told his officers. We hurt them, but they're still out there. And now they know we're dangerous. The next time they come, they won't underestimate us. 3 hours after the battle in the asteroid field, Captain Day called a meeting in the mess hall. The entire senior crew gathered around the table where a projection of the local space showed the positions of both fleets. The crippled Kalthari ship drifted at the edge of the field. The 2 remaining enemy vessels held position several thousand kilometers away. They're waiting, Hana said. Planning their next move. Day nodded. And we're going to help them plan. Yuna, show them what you found. Yuna was the ship's communications specialist, a quiet woman in her mid-20s with sharp eyes. She had been working non-stop since the battle ended. Now she pulled up screens filled with alien text and audio waveforms. I've been analyzing every transmission the Kalthari have made, Yuna explained. Their encryption is good, but not perfect. I've cracked about 60% of their command protocols. She played a recording of Vresh's voice, the alien words now translated into human language. The crew listened as Vresh discussed tactics with his remaining ship captains. They heard the frustration in his voice, the damaged pride. Vresh was describing new strategies, more cautious approaches. They're scared, Tay said with satisfaction. Worried, Day corrected. Not the same thing. Scared prey runs. Worried predators become careful. We need them to be scared. He looked at Yuna. Can you broadcast false signals? Make it look like we have more ships here. Yuna's eyes lit up. Yes, Captain. I can modify our sensor drones to emit signatures matching our engines. If I spread them through the field, it will look like multiple human vessels. Do it. And Yuna, I want you to broadcast something else. Use their own communications. Send distress calls from their damaged ship, but make them sound worse than they are. Yuna smiled slowly. Psychological warfare. Make them think their crew is dying. Make them think we're monsters, Day said quietly. Make them afraid to come near us. Over the next several hours, the shadow of Earth began its campaign of fear. False signals appeared throughout the asteroid field. To the Kalthari sensors, it looked like 4 or 5 human ships were present, all moving in coordinated patterns. Yuna broadcast altered distress calls from the crippled Kalthari vessel, playing recordings that suggested the crew was suffering terribly. On Vresh's command ship, the mood grew dark. The communications officer reported intercepting human signals. Across a wide area, Commander, there may be an entire human fleet in this sector. Vresh studied the readings. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. The signals looked real. The patterns made sense. But how had humans assembled a fleet so quickly, unless they had been expecting the Kalthari all along? Deploy both ships in a wide search pattern, Vresh ordered. Stay in communication range. If you find the human vessels, do not engage alone. We attack together. The two Kalthari ships separated, moving to opposite sides of the asteroid field. This was exactly what Day wanted. Divided enemies were weak enemies. The second Kalthari ship, commanded by a captain named Throck, moved cautiously toward a nebula region where several human signals clustered. Throck was younger than Vresh, but equally proud. He wanted to restore honor to the hunting pack. Approaching the signal sources, Throck reported. Thermal readings consistent with human engine designs. Multiple contacts. What Throck didn't know was that those contacts were just drones. Simple machines broadcasting false signatures. The real shadow of Earth was somewhere else entirely, powered down and camouflaged. For days, Tay had been working on the ship's exterior. He had applied a special coating that reflected sensor beams in scattered directions. At low power, the shadow of Earth looked like just another asteroid, a dead rock floating in space. Now that disguise was about to be used. The shadow of Earth hung motionless near the nebula, positioned along the exact path Yuna had predicted the Kalthari ship would take. The crew waited in silence. No one spoke. Even breathing seemed too loud. Through the view screen, they watched Throck's ship glide past so close they could see individual weapon ports. The alien vessel moved slowly, searching for the false signals, completely unaware that the real threat was meters away. "Captain," Hana whispered. "Permission to fire." Day waited. The Kalthari ship moved further into the kill zone. Day counted seconds in his head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all weapons, fire. The shadow of Earth came alive. Every system activated at once. Railguns, missiles, plasma cutters normally used for mining, all unleashed at point-blank range. The concentrated fire was devastating. Throck's ship had shields designed for long-range combat, meant to deflect attacks from a distance. But at this range, the shields might as well have been paper. The first railgun rounds punched through and tore into the hull. Missiles followed, exploding against the armor. Plasma cutters carved glowing lines across the vessel's side. "Shields down," someone screamed on the alien bridge. Hull breaches in multiple sections. Throck tried to turn his ship to bring weapons to bear, but the shadow of Earth was already moving.
Hana piloted with deadly precision, keeping them in the Kalthari ship's blind spots. "Ari."
"You're clear," Day said into his comm. Ari's scout craft had been hiding behind the same asteroid as the shadow of Earth. Now she shot forward, racing toward the wounded Kalthari vessel. Attached to her small ship were grappling cables normally used for towing operations, but at the end of each cable was a high-yield explosive charge. Ari flew under the Kalthari ship, close enough to see the damage from the Shadow's attack. She fired the grappling cables. Magnetic hooks grabbed onto the alien hull, attaching the explosives directly to the engine ports. "Charges attached," Ari called. "Clear." Her scout craft spun away just as the charges detonated. The explosions tore into the Kalthari engines. Fuel lines ruptured. The reactor's containment field flickered and failed for just a moment. But that was enough. The engine section erupted in a brilliant flash. Throck's ship went dark. All power failed. Life support switched to emergency batteries. The vessel tumbled slowly, crippled and helpless. On Vresh's command ship, the commander watched his second vessel go silent. His scales had turned almost black with shock and rage. 2 ships. He had lost 2 ships to a single human vessel. "Commander," his second officer said carefully, "we should withdraw. Call for reinforcements. This is not a standard hunt." For a long moment, Vresh said nothing. His forearms trembled with emotion. Every instinct told him to retreat, to reassess, to approach this threat with the full weight of the Kalthari military. But pride is a powerful thing. Vresh thought of returning home, of telling the Dominion that he fled from prey, of the shame that would follow him forever. "No," Vresh said finally, "I will not run from humans. We continue. Commander, we're alone now. 1 ship against what appears to be multiple enemy vessels. Then we adapt. We survive. That is what predators do." Vresh manipulated his controls, plotting a course. "We make for the Kelvar system. There's a Kalthari outpost there, 3 days away at maximum speed. We lead the humans into a trap." His crew worked quickly, setting course. The ship's engines burned bright as they began to accelerate away from the asteroid field. On the shadow of Earth, sensors detected the Kalthari retreat. Hana pulled up the trajectory. They're running for the Kelvar system. There's a military outpost there. How long until they reach it? Day asked. 3 days at their current speed. Day considered this. If Vresh reached the outpost, he could call in dozens of ships. The hunt would become a war. But if they let him go, the Kalthari might return with overwhelming force anyway. Set pursuit course, Day ordered. We follow them. Captain, Bora spoke up nervously. We're one ship. If we follow them to their outpost, we won't let them reach it, Day interrupted. We're going to end this hunt, but on our terms. He looked at Yuna. Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know everything they say. Tay's voice came through the comm from engineering. Captain, if we're pursuing at their speed, I should warn you they're pushing their engines hard. Too hard. They're going to have a breakdown within 2 days if they maintain this pace. Good, Day said. Fear makes people make mistakes. The shadow of Earth followed the Kalthari ship through the void. They stayed just out of direct sensor range, but close enough that Vresh would know they were there. It was a psychological game now. Let the enemy feel hunted. Let them feel the pressure of being prey. Yuna worked constantly, intercepting every transmission from Vresh's ship. She translated the messages for Day and the senior crew. They listened as Vresh described the humans to his superiors, heard how his voice changed from confident to uncertain, to genuinely frightened. He's calling us ghost predators, Yuna reported. Demons that strike from nowhere and vanish. Some of his crew want to surrender. Hana looked at Day. We could end this now. One missile strike while they're running. No, Day said. We need them alive. We need them to go home and tell their people what happened here. Fear is our best weapon now. Let them spread the word about what happens when you hunt humans. The chase continued through the black of space. The Kalthari ship ran as fast as it could. Behind it, silent and patient, the shadow of Earth followed like a shadow that couldn't be shaken. Vresh stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical display. He could feel the human ship back there, watching, waiting. For the first time in his long career, he understood what it felt like to be prey. The knowledge was terrifying. Increase speed, Vresh ordered. Commander, the engines are already at maximum safe threshold. His engineer protested. I said increase speed, Vresh roared. I will not die out here in the dark. The Kalthari ship accelerated, pushing its engines beyond design limits. Behind it, the shadow of Earth matched its speed exactly, maintaining the same distance, never getting closer, never falling behind. Just there, always there, hunting the hunter. The pursuit had lasted 2 days. 2 days of constant flight through the emptiness of space. Commander Vresh had not slept in 40 hours. His scales had lost their vibrant color, turning a dull gray from stress. Every time he checked the sensors, the human ship was there, following at the same distance, never attacking, never stopping. It was driving him insane. Commander, we're receiving a response from Outpost Kelvar, his communications officer reported. They say our story about human capabilities is difficult to believe. They're requesting evidence before sending reinforcements. Vresh wanted to scream. Tell them we lost 2 ships. Tell them. He stopped himself, forcing calm. Tell them we will provide full tactical recordings when we arrive. Confirm our arrival time. 26 hours at current speed, Commander. 26 more hours of being hunted. Vresh didn't know if his nerves could take it. On the shadow of Earth, the mood was tense but controlled. Day had divided his crew into shifts so everyone got rest. He knew exhausted people made fatal mistakes. Right now, Hana was sleeping in her quarters while a junior officer monitored the tactical station. Day himself sat in his ready room, reviewing data. Yuna had provided him with everything she had learned about Kalthari tactics, psychology, and standard procedures. One section caught his attention: last stand protocols. According to Kalthari tradition, a cornered hunter would sometimes feign death, shutting down all systems to appear destroyed. When the prey approached to investigate, the hunter would attack at point-blank range. It was considered a desperate but honorable tactic. They're going to try it, Day said to himself. Vresh is too proud to die running. Tay's voice came through the comm. Captain, the Kalthari ship's engine stress is reaching critical levels. Their thermal output is spiking. They're burning out. How long until complete failure? 6 hours, maybe 8. They won't make it to their outpost at this rate. Day considered this. Fresh was desperate. His ship was dying, and he knew the humans were right behind him. What would a desperate predator do? Una, are you tracking their navigation? Day asked. Yes, Captain. They've made a slight course change. They're heading toward the Tuller system. Day pulled up star charts. The Tuller system had one feature, a dying red giant star. The radiation levels there were extreme, deadly to most species, but Kalthari had thick scales and better radiation resistance than humans. He's going to try to lose us in the radiation, Day said. Hana, wake up! I need you on the bridge. Minutes later, the senior crew assembled. Day explained his theory about Vresh's plan and the fake death tactic. If we follow them into that system, we'll be exposed to high radiation, Tay said. I can reinforce our shielding, but the crew will need anti-radiation medication, and we can only stay in there for a few hours before it becomes dangerous. How long can the Kalthari stay? Hana asked. Based on their biology, probably twice as long as us, Una answered. It's a smart move. They're using the environment as a weapon. Day nodded. But we're smarter. Tay, prepare the radiation protocols. Una, I need you to prepare sensor drones. When Vresh shuts down his ship to fake being dead, I want those drones watching from every angle. Hana, when he springs his trap, I want you ready with a counterstrike that he won't forget. Ari spoke up. Captain, my scout craft has better radiation shielding than the main ship. Let me go ahead, be your eyes. It's dangerous, Ari. I know, sir, but this is what I trained for. Tay studied her face, then nodded. All right, but you stay far from the Kalthari ship. Observation only. The shadow of Earth crossed into the Tuller system 6 hours later. Immediately, radiation alarms began to sound. The dying star ahead of them glowed an angry red, its surface writhing with solar storms. The heat was intense even at this distance. All crew, radiation protocols in effect, Day announced. Anyone not at their duty station should be in shielded areas. Medical teams, start distributing anti-rad medications. The Kalthari ship ahead of them dove deeper into the system, moving closer to the deadly star. Vresh's vessel was trailing plasma now, its damaged engines leaking, but it kept going, heading for the star's corona where the radiation was strongest. Ari's scout craft launched from the shadow of Earth, racing ahead on a parallel course. Through her canopy, she could see the red star dominating the sky. Her ship's computer showed radiation levels climbing steadily. Shadow, this is Ari. I'm tracking the Kalthari vessel. They're moving into the corona zone. That's suicide range for most ships. Stay back, Day ordered. Deploy your sensor drones at maximum range. Ari launched a spread of small drones, each one programmed to watch the Kalthari ship from different angles. The drones scattered into position, their feeds appearing on her displays. On Vresh's bridge, the commander watched the radiation levels climb. His crew worked in protective gear now, but they could feel the heat even through their ship's hull. This was the edge of survivability even for Kalthari. All ships, power down, Vresh ordered. Everything except life support and weapons. Make it look like the radiation killed our systems. His crew worked quickly. The Kalthari ship went dark, drifting like a corpse in the red light of the dying star. Only minimum life support remained active, barely detectable. The weapons systems were on standby, ready to activate in seconds. Now we wait, Vresh said. The humans will come to investigate. Their curiosity will be their death. When they get close, we destroy them. On the shadow of Earth, sensors showed the Kalthari ship going dead. Bora reported. Captain, the enemy vessel has lost all power. They're drifting. Or they want us to think they are, Day said. He pulled up the feeds from Ari's sensor drones. Multiple angles showed the dark Kalthari ship. Hana, what do you see? Hana studied the images carefully. Their hull temperature is still too high. If they really lost power, they'd be cooling faster in this environment. They're running minimal systems. The trap is set, Day confirmed. Time to spring it. Ari, are you in position? Ready, Captain. Launch the decoy drones toward the Kalthari ship. Program them to look like us approaching to investigate. Ari activated a cluster of drones, each one modified to broadcast thermal and electromagnetic signatures matching the shadow of Earth. To Kalthari sensors, it would look like the human ship was approaching. On Vresh's bridge, alarms chimed softly. Commander, the human vessel is approaching. Distance 5,000 meters and closing. Vresh felt his hearts race with excitement. Wait until they reach 1,000 meters. Then we fire everything. The distance counter dropped. 4,000. 3,000. 2,000, now, Vresh shouted. The Kalthari ship blazed to life. Weapons ports opened and energy weapons fired in all directions. Beams of concentrated energy lanced through space, converging on the approaching signals. The beams struck the drones and vaporized them instantly. Vresh stared at his displays in confusion. What? Where is the human ship? Commander, those were decoys. The real ship is behind us. Dai finished the sentence from his command chair even though Vresh couldn't hear him. Fire. The shadow of Earth had positioned itself above and behind the Kalthari vessel, using the star's radiation to mask its approach. Now at point-blank range, it unleashed everything. Railgun rounds tore through the Kalthari ship's weakened shields. Missiles followed, targeting specific sections. The alien vessel's hull ruptured in multiple places. Atmosphere vented into space in white jets. Engines offline. Someone screamed on Vresh's bridge. Weapons destroyed. Life support failing. More impacts struck. The shadow of Earth's plasma cutters, designed to slice through asteroids, carved glowing lines across the Kalthari hull. Critical systems exploded. The lights on the alien bridge flickered and died. Emergency power, Vresh shouted into the darkness. Get us out of here! But there was no escape. The Kalthari ship tumbled helplessly, caught in the gravity well of the dying star. Its orbit was decaying. Without engines, it would eventually fall into the star itself. Day's voice suddenly filled the Kalthari bridge, broadcast directly through their emergency comm system. Yuna had hacked their communication protocols. Commander Vresh, Day said, his voice calm but cold. You wanted to hunt us. You wanted to study us like animals. Now you know what we are. We're the species that survived when predators worse than you tried to eliminate us on our own world. We're the species that fought each other for thousands of years and learned every dirty trick of warfare. You were apex predators on your world. We were never apex predators on ours. We were survivors, and survivors are far more dangerous. Vresh stood in the darkness of his dying ship listening to those words. He felt something he had never felt before. True, complete defeat. Day continued. Your ship is transmitting distress signals now. Your people will find you, but you're going to tell them something for me. Tell them that humans don't want war. Tell them we'll trade, we'll talk, we'll be friends if they want. But tell them never to hunt us again. Because if they try, we won't run. We'll do what we just did to you. Do you understand? Vresh found his voice. I understand. Good, we're leaving now. Try to survive until your rescue comes. And Vresh? Next time someone tells you they're prey, don't believe it. Sometimes prey is just a predator waiting for the right moment. The transmission ended. Through the damaged viewports, Vresh watched the shadow of Earth move away, its engines glowing as it left the system. The human ship vanished into the black, and Vresh was alone with his broken crew and his shattered pride. Hours later, Kalthari rescue ships arrived. They found Vresh's vessel on the edge of destruction, its crew barely alive. As medical teams worked, Vresh told them everything. He told them about the hunt that went wrong, about the humans who fought like demons, about the ship that refused to be prey. The rescue commander listened in silence. When Vresh finished, the commander said quietly, "This will change everything." Vresh nodded. It already has. 3 months had passed since the hunt in the outer veil. The shadow of Earth moved through space on a calm trajectory, heading home to human territory. The ship bore scars from the battle, sections of hull armor patched with emergency repairs. But it was intact, and more importantly, the crew was alive. Captain Day stood in his ready room looking at a message on his personal screen. It was from Earth Fleet Command, informing him that he and his crew were being recalled for debriefing. The message was formal and polite, but Day could read between the lines. Command was both impressed and worried about what had happened. A chime at his door announced a visitor. "Come in," Day called. Hana entered, looking more relaxed than she had in months. "Captain, we're receiving multiple comm requests from various alien governments. They all want to know about the incident with the Kalthari. Tell them to contact Earth's diplomatic corps," Day replied. "This is above our level now," Hana smiled. "Sir, half the galaxy wants to talk to you personally. You're famous. The human captain who defeated a Kalthari hunting pack." Day shook his head. "I'm not interested in fame. I just want to get my crew home safely." But fame, as Day would learn, came whether he wanted it or not. At Earth's largest orbital station, Ambassador Nari waited in the diplomatic conference room. She was a sharp woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 20 years negotiating with alien species, learning their customs and politics. Now she faced her biggest challenge yet. The Kalthari Dominion had filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Assembly. They claimed that Captain Day and the Shadow of Earth had violated hunting protocols and engaged in excessive force against a superior species. They demanded that Earth pay reparations and accept restrictions on human expansion into their territory. Nari read the complaint with interest. The Kalthari were masters of bureaucracy. They had turned their defeat into a legal battle, hoping to win through politics what they couldn't win through force. But Nari had been preparing for this moment. She had copies of every transmission, every sensor reading, every tactical decision from the incident, and she had something even more valuable: the truth. The Galactic Assembly met in a massive station orbiting a neutral world. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Great Hall, a chamber so large it needed artificial gravity to keep everyone comfortable. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing speakers from different parts of the chamber. The Kalthari delegation entered first. They were impressive in their formal armor, their scales polished to a bright sheen. Their lead speaker, a female named Kresh, approached the central podium. She was a seasoned diplomat, skilled at swaying opinion. Members of the assembly, Kresh began, we bring a matter of grave concern. A new species calling themselves humans has violated the ancient codes that govern this galaxy. When our hunting fleet engaged in traditional tracking exercises, the humans responded with brutal and unprovoked violence. 3 of our ships were damaged or destroyed. Our crews suffered casualties. This aggression cannot stand, murmurs filled the chamber. Many species knew the Kalthari as powerful warriors. If humans could defeat them, what did that mean for the balance of power? Kresh continued, we ask the Assembly to recognize the threat these humans pose. They are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. We request that boundaries be placed on their expansion, that they be monitored, and that they pay compensation for their crimes. The Kalthari presentation lasted an hour, full of technical details and emotional appeals. When it ended, many species seemed convinced. The humans appeared to be a dangerous element that needed to be controlled. Then it was Earth's turn. Ambassador Nari walked to the podium. She carried only a small data device. She looked calm, almost casual. When she spoke, her voice was clear and confident. Members of the Assembly, I am Ambassador Nari of Earth. I am here to tell you what really happened in the Outer Veil. She activated her data device. The holographic displays throughout the chamber changed, showing a tactical view of the encounter. This is the Shadow of Earth, a single research vessel conducting routine mapping operations. It was unarmed except for basic defensive weapons. The crew numbered 38. The display shifted, showing 3 Kalthari ships approaching. These are the 3 Kalthari vessels that tracked our ship for hours before attacking. Note the timestamps. They followed us. They surrounded us. They deployed weapons to trap us. Only then did they demand our surrender. Nari let that sink in. The Kalthari claimed they were engaged in traditional tracking exercises. I asked the Assembly, when did it become traditional to threaten unarmed research vessels? When did tracking become trapping? She played the audio of Commander Vresh's demand for surrender. The translator made his words clear to everyone in the chamber. The arrogance in his voice was obvious. My people have a saying, Nari continued. Don't start a fight you can't finish. Captain Day and his crew were attacked without provocation. They defended themselves. And yes, they won. But let me show you how. The displays showed the entire battle from beginning to end. The Assembly watched as the small human ship used tactics and intelligence to defeat larger opponents. They saw the clever use of asteroids, the psychological warfare, the precise strikes. It wasn't brutal violence. It was brilliant strategy. The Kalthari are known as hunters, Nari said. Respected hunters. But they made a mistake. They assumed humans would be easy prey. They were wrong. Not because we're more violent than other species, but because we've learned something in our history. Survival requires more than strength. It requires adaptation, intelligence, and the will to never give up. She paused, looking around the chamber. The Kalthari want you to fear humans. I understand that. Change is frightening. New powers upset old orders. But I ask you to consider this. Would you rather have humans as enemies or as friends? Would you rather fight us or trade with us? Would you rather fear us or learn from us? Nari deactivated the display. Earth offers peace to all species who offer it to us. We offer trade, knowledge, and friendship. But we will not be prey. We will not allow others to hunt us for sport. And if attacked, we will defend ourselves. This is not a threat. It is simply the truth. She returned to her seat. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the voting began. Each species indicated their position on the Kalthari complaint. The results appeared on the central display as they came in. One by one, species voted against the Kalthari position. Some did it because they believed Earth was right. Others did it because they feared human capabilities. But the effect was the same. The complaint was rejected unanimously, but something unexpected happened next. Several species requested to speak. One by one, they approached the podium and addressed Earth directly. The Miran Collective, a species of peaceful traders, offered a trade agreement. The Borkan Empire, known for their military strength, proposed a mutual defense pact. The Tessian Republic requested an exchange of scientific knowledge. On and on it went. Within hours, Earth had received more than 20 formal proposals for cooperation. Nari watched this unfold with satisfaction. The Kalthari had tried to isolate Earth. Instead, they had made humans look strong, capable, and reasonable. It was a diplomatic victory beyond anything she had hoped for. At the Kalthari delegation seats, Kresh sat in bitter silence. They had lost again, this time in the court of public opinion. Back at Earth's orbital station, the Shadow of Earth docked for repairs and crew leave. Captain Day stood at the airlock as his crew departed, saying goodbye to each person. Hana had received orders for her own command. She would captain a new stealth frigate, using the tactics learned from their encounter with the Kalthari. "Thank you, Captain," she said, shaking Day's hand, "for teaching me how to think like a survivor." Tay was being recruited by Fleet Research and Development. His modifications to the ship had impressed the engineers. "They want me to design the next generation of human vessels," he said with pride. "Ships that can't be hunted." Ari had been accepted into the elite scout division. Young pilots across Earth now wanted to follow in her footsteps. "I'm going to teach others what you taught me, Captain. How to be brave and smart at the same time." Yuna was joining the diplomatic service. Her skills at breaking encryption and understanding alien communications would be valuable in negotiations. "Someone needs to make sure we hear what they're really saying," she said. "I'll be Earth's ears in the stars." One by one, the crew left for new assignments. Day felt pride watching them go. They had faced death together and survived. Now they would take those lessons and make humanity stronger. When everyone had gone, Day walked to the station's observation deck. It was a quiet place with a massive window looking out at the stars. He stood there alone, thinking about the past months. The door opened behind him. Ambassador Nari entered and stood beside him at the window. "Captain Day," she said, "I wanted to thank you personally. What you did out there changed everything for Earth." "I just protected my crew," Dee replied. "You did more than that. You showed the galaxy who we are. Not conquerors, not victims, just survivors who refuse to be underestimated." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the ships of different species dock at the station. It was a sight that would have been impossible a few months ago. Now it was normal. "What happens now?" Day asked. Nari smiled. "Now we build. We make alliances. We learn from other species and teach them about us. We explore, we trade, we grow. Because of what you did, we have that opportunity." "And the Kalthari? They're being quiet for now. Hurt pride takes time to heal, but I think they've learned their lesson. They'll think twice before hunting anyone again." Day nodded. "Good. I never wanted to hurt them. I just wanted them to leave us alone. And now they will. All of them will." More ships appeared in the distance, arriving from distant systems. Trade vessels, diplomatic ships, science expeditions, all coming to Earth, all wanting to meet humanity. Day watched them come and thought about Commander Vresh, somewhere in Kalthari space, probably still recovering from his wounds. He wondered if the alien commander understood now. The galaxy wasn't divided into predators and prey. It was more complex than that. Survival came in many forms and strength wore many faces. "Captain," Nari said, "I have a question. When you were out there facing 3 enemy ships, weren't you afraid?" Day considered this. "Every moment. Fear keeps you sharp. But I learned something a long time ago. Fear is just information. It tells you danger is present. But it doesn't tell you to run. That's your choice. And you chose to fight. I chose to survive. There's a difference, Nari nodded slowly. That's what makes humans special, isn't it? Other species are born to be predators or prey. We're born to be survivors, and survivors adapt to anything. We'll see, Day said. The galaxy is big. There's a lot we don't know yet. A lot that could go wrong. But also a lot that could go right. Day smiled for the first time in months. Yes, that too. They stood together at the window, watching the new era begin. Ships from 100 worlds moved through the black, and humanity was no longer alone. They were part of something bigger now, part of the great community of stars. And if anyone ever tried to hunt them again, well, they would learn the same lesson the Kalthari learned. In a galaxy of predators and prey, humanity had carved out a third option: respect. The stars shined bright in the darkness, and among them, Earth's ships moved with confidence. They were survivors. They were builders. They were explorers. And they were home.